How to Learn to Speak English, a practical guide that really works. Learning a new language is like setting sail on a vast ocean. Sometimes the waters are calm and everything seems to flow smoothly, but other times we face storms of doubt and confusion. Today, I want to share with you 3 powerful methods for learning English that really work. But before we dive into the techniques, we need to understand something fundamental. How do humans actually learn? Knowing this will help you steer your course and separate effective learning strategies from those that might just waste your time. There are 2 main ways: explicit learning and implicit learning. Explicit learning is when you are fully aware that you're learning something and you know exactly what it is. Think about those moments in school when your teacher explained the past tense in English. You listened, wrote down the rules, and memorized them. You were consciously focusing on learning grammar rules and applying them. But there's another type of learning, and that's implicit learning. This is much more natural and often happens without you even realizing it. Think about when you're listening to a casual conversation in English. You're not sitting there with a notebook, taking notes on grammar. Your focus is simply on understanding the conversation, but without realizing it, your brain is absorbing vocabulary, sentence structures, and pronunciation patterns. The big question is, which type of learning is better for speaking English fluently? Explicit learning gives you explicit knowledge. This means you have to consciously think about the rules when you speak. Imagine you're trying to speak English, but you need to pause and think, wait, should I use the past tense here? How do I form the sentence correctly? This slows you down. Speaking requires speed. You don't have time to stop and think about every grammar rule. On the other hand, implicit learning results in implicit knowledge. This is knowledge you can access effortlessly without thinking. Consider how you speak your native language. You don't stop to think about grammar rules like subject-verb agreement or verb tenses. You just speak. That's because your knowledge is stored deep within, and it flows naturally. If your aim is to speak English with confidence, implicit learning is the key. Now let's explore 3 practical methods to achieve that. The first method is active listening. Listening to English as much as possible is a great way to immerse yourself in the language. You can listen to English while driving, working out, or even while waiting in line at the grocery store. It's an easy and passive way to learn because it doesn't require much effort. But here's the catch. Listening alone isn't enough. It's too passive. You need to combine it with speaking practice. The second method is using English courses that focus on speaking and teach implicitly. These courses are designed to help you practice to think too hard. Imagine you're participating in a lesson where you practice simple conversations. For example, teacher, is there a cat? You know, there isn't a cat. What is there? There's a dog. Teacher, does Lisa own the dog? You know, she doesn't own the dog. This type of repetition helps you internalize sentence structures and common phrases. The advantage of a course like this is that you get immediate feedback every time you speak. You make mistakes, but you correct them right away, which speeds up your learning process. Imagine you're practicing a story about someone named John. There was a guy named John. He wanted to open a restaurant. Teacher, Did John want to open a car dealership? You know, he didn't want to open a car dealership. What did he want to open? He wanted to open a restaurant. Through this process, you're learning to form sentences naturally, without overthinking. But like all methods, this one has limitations. The vocabulary and phrases you learn are restricted to what's in the course. To truly speak English well, you'll need to expand your vocabulary and practice outside of the course material. The third method is imitation. Imitation is one of the most powerful ways to learn any language, especially for intermediate and advanced learners. Here's how it works. You listen to a conversation or a story in English, and then you try to retell it in your own words. This method forces you to use the vocabulary and grammar you've learned in a natural context. For example, imagine you just listened to a story about a girl named Emily who went on a trip. Emily traveled to Paris last summer. She visited the Eiffel Tower, ate croissants, and explored art museums. Your job is to retell the story, using the key details, but in your own way. You might say, last summer, Emily went to Paris. She saw the Eiffel Tower and tried some delicious croissants. She also spent time in the city's famous museums. By imitating stories like this, you reinforce what you've learned and build the confidence to speak freely. However, this method can be challenging for beginners. If you're just starting out and can only speak basic English, it might be tough to imitate full conversations. In that case, starting with simpler speaking courses is a better option. Each of these methods, listening, using speaking courses, and imitation, has its own strengths and weaknesses. The key is to understand where you are in your learning journey and choose the method that suits you best. Remember, learning a language is a personal journey. It's not just about memorizing words and rules. It's about embracing a new way of thinking and expressing yourself. The more natural your learning process, the more enjoyable and successful it will be. I hope these tips were helpful for learning English more effectively. Remember, consistent practice is the key to fluency. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more English learning content. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any tips, and share this video with friends who also want to master English. Let's take this journey together. See you next time.